Christopher Spera, and this is the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 101, Creepy Epic Failures. Recorded live Sunday, August 4th. Wow, it's August already. It's August already. 2024, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I'm Christopher Spera, the editor-in-chief over here at iTechGear.org, and unfortunately, Mr. Larry McJunkin is a little under the weather and will not be able to join us this week, but we've got the other usual suspects all here, live and back from his most recent epic trek.
Epic.
The former contributing writer over Gear Diary.
Was that epic?
It is. The host of the
Okay.
Linux Link Tech Show and Living in the Retro Arcade podcast, Brother Joe McLaughlin. How are you, sir?
Oh, I am tired, but quite happy. You
did really well.
I did okay. I did not get the mileage I wanted to, but honestly, it'd be different if I did it and I hated it the whole time, but I didn't. I loved it. I just didn't want to stop, but I had to listen to my body and I had to pull out at mile 11.
You did the right thing.
But
you did the right thing.
It goes to show you how important sleep is, because I didn't sleep well the night before, and how important knowing where you're going is, and being able to experience it, or at the very least, the areas I need to train on to do well the next time on the same one, which I don't know if I'm going to do the same one for the next one. I think we're going to try and do the one in Northern Ohio at Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which I didn't even know we had a national park.
I know it.
Yeah. So the trail looks a little bit better, than the other one. But the one everyone that said I've talked to down there at the event said that Baroque is one of the toughest. So I feel pretty good with completing over half of it.
Well, congratulations on what you completed. We are all very proud of you over here at the Weekly. So great job, and glad that you're completed and recovering. So there you go.
Yes.
Also joining us this week, the former contributing editor over here, over at Gear Diary and Pocket now, and of course, editor over here at iTechGear.org, Mr. Chris Gavula. How are you, sir?
Doing okay. A little under the weather, as you know. We've talked earlier today, but
but not too bad.
Functional enough to be here, and I would hate to disappoint and not present those dulcet tones.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, me who has the voice for print.
So. Oh yes, there you go. Well, you know what doesn't have a voice for print this week? It's the new Photos app. The new Photos app in iOS 18.
Yeah.
I know that you and Mr. Larry McJunkin were talking about that a little bit this week. What's going on with it, since you're really into the iOS beta? What's going on?
Yeah, so he and I are both running it now, and one of the things that's changed in the latest iOS beta, or the iOS 18, when it's going to be, there's a new version.
For you to say.
Apparently not. Is there's going to be a new version of the Photos app, and with some updates and changes in it. And for those of you who liked a while back when Apple introduced that sort of moments concept into the Photos, where it sort of tries to help curate some of your photos and lump them into my vacation and and these other kind of goofy, like they call them, moments.
Sure.
If you like that, you're going to like these changes. If you don't like that, and I don't, and neither did Mr. Larry McJunkin.
There you go.
They've added a whole bunch of complications and categories and these different kinds of things, and they are on your primary page when you launch Photos. So instead of seeing your photo library right away, you tend to see this other crap first. And I don't think either of us is very happy with it. It's a lot of categories, people and pets, recent days, memories, albums, featured photos, trips. I mean, they've got all these categories that pop up now, and it sucks up real estate. And it doesn't seem to be, you can sort of turn them off, but not really yet. And that might just be a thing of the beta. It may be when it comes out finally. I don't know yet. Keep in mind, guys, this is still a beta, so it is what it is. But
Right.
I just think, it's the encapsulation of this app, and there's adding this thing. Same thing, kind of thing happened to iTunes. Remember, we added in all the social stuff to it and made it less of what it was. Well, that's kind of what's happening here too. It's not social stuff. Well, it kind of is social stuff. It's about sharing the data and collecting the photos in a certain ways, that they think is going to be meaningful to you.
Sure.
I just want to disable all that. I just want it to be my photo library. That's it.
I totally get that. Google Photos does a lot of curation.
I'm not a big fan of curation, so clearly.
So I know that Larry, one of the things that Larry was saying was that, hey, just make it like Google Photos and get over it. And that would be, really good for him. The problem is this is a big part of what Google Photos does. I mean, I can't tell. Every day I get, hey, we've got a memory for you, and hey, we pulled this live, or these similar shots together to create an animation for you.
And you can partially disable some of this stuff, by the way. I don't want to say you can't, but it's still way more in your face than it used to be. And for me personally, I want to see my photo library. Give me the ability to create and make albums the way I want to create them.
Right.
And I don't mind that you have these capabilities, but don't shove them in my face and don't give me a way to not turn them off.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at with it.
I get that. I
mean, for people the people who want it can use it. People who don't want it don't have to use it. But here it is once again. Another, again, they're all competing with each other, and they're all heading down the same crappy path, which I really don't care for.
Well,
so
one of the interesting things about this is that they are trying. They're trying to capture the audience, and they're trying to give you, people.
Well,
honestly,
this is also a quote unquote AI feature kind of thing that's being added.
True, and
it's starting down that path as well. So
and I get that too. Here's half the problem. All right. My wife and I have literally almost 200,000 when you combine our libraries together, when you combine, how much she has and how much I have, more than 200,000 different photos. All right. Over the course of our lifetime. All right. And the time that we've had iPhones, which has been a while. And, you kind of sort of forget, the older photos.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
You really just concentrate on maybe within the last year or two. And some of this stuff actually, brings back the older photos and brings back some of those memories. And as, we approach 60, it's nice to have some of that, thrown back at you.
But
oh my
again,
God, I remember that day.
Have the option available. Don't make us all deal with it.
Well,
make it available though for folks like you that want it.
Well, it's not that I want it. It's well, geez, look at that. I mean, I completely forgot about that time that we went, with the guy in the place and did the thing, right? It's kind of nice when you've got that big of a library, and it's not like, you can go and print all of them out. I mean, one of the things that, when somebody passes away, one of the things that's really kind of cool and nice is that you go and you start looking through all of the old family pictures, because they've got these either boxes and boxes of snapshots, or they've got these photo albums, and what the hell do you do with them? So you sit there, after the wake or after the services or whatever, and you flip through the photos and you go, oh, don't you remember this, that, or the other thing? And
I'm not saying this isn't great for people that want it. But I'm saying for those of us who don't, let me make it go away.
I understand, but how are you going to? What are you going to do with all of those digital photos? What are you going to? How do you get them out?
What do you care? Seriously, what do you care what I do with them? You know what?
I'm talking about my family. I'm talking about my family.
I know, but so you
and what
use
my
the
family
feature.
does
That's
with my
great.
photo library afterwards. So it's
So you use it. You use it. Well, what did we do? What did we do before we had this? We had boxes of photos,
and we
sometimes
put them
thousands
away
of photos,
and forgot
and we
about them
put them
until somebody
away,
else passed away, and then we got them out again.
we started, and then we sat around looking
Mhm.
through the boxes. That's what we did,
I'm just saying,
and okay, let me go back to that.
Nah.
So there you go.
That's true. That's true. And well, the nice thing is, speaking of Apple, I mean, apparently, according to at least Apple Insider, Apple announced their third quarter results, and
They did.
apparently, compared to last year, sale figures, grew year over year. So,
Yeah.
third quarter results from, this quarter as compared to that, we're on a growth trend. So, the Apple's revenue hit $85.78 billion with a B, up from 81.8 for the same quarter a year ago. Wall Street's expectations of 84.54 were beaten by their actual performance of 85.78. So, more than $1 billion more. EPS, or earnings per share, were of $1.40, is up from a year ago at $1.26. So they are now what I would consider to be the Wall Street darling again, like they ever were not, but meh.
I think it's interesting that they beat expectations in all categories. But what I find interesting is the biggest one up was iPads. iPads were up, and they were saying, I've heard the last few years, that whole pad tablet market is dead. It's dead. It's dead. They're up.
They're up, and it's actually, I think
lot.
Yes, and I think it actually has to do with the process. I think the world is expecting them to do something. I don't know
Could
what.
be.
I don't know
It could
what.
be, but
Now that there's an
but
M4 processor in these things, and they're getting more powerful, what are they going to do? How are they going to do it? Is Apple going to make a change or whatever?
but you would think people would wait, but they're apparently buying them.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So
good for Apple.
Yeah, good for Apple. You know what also is kind of not so great for Apple. Well, I don't know if you would call it not so great, but Epic's CEO again. with this guy. He thinks that Apple's Find My technology is creepy.
Well, it depends on what kind of person you are. If you're the kind of person that doesn't want to track your personal belongings because they could be, because you be carrying them, and then somebody else can see where you are based on your devices, I could see why, but
here's the thing. All right, what is Find My supposed to? Find My is supposed to do two things.
Let's pause back for a second. Let's let folks know what he's actually complaining about, because really there's a couple of these kind of tracking technologies. Apple has the tags.
Right,
no, they have tags that you can purchase and put in things.
Tags.
That's one set of tracking technology, and there have been conversations over the last few years about, people used them this way, people used them that way. But guess what? They could have done that with any of the tracking technology that was out even before Apple AirTags came out. So the point is, that's one technology that's out and can be used badly or goodly, in a good way or a bad way,
or as designed, right? Because here's the thing. I mean, if you really want to get down to brass tacks, tags like this, like something, the product like Apple Tags has been around for a lot longer than Apple Tags have been around.
That's my point. That's my point.
Tile Apple was, I think, the first.
Tile was, the technology is basically similar in some ways. How it gets your answers is a little different, but the point is,
but effectively, it's the same thing. You stick this thingy.
It's still a tracker at the end of the
You
day,
stick
right?
this tracker on
Right.
a thing, whether it's a bag or a backpack, a briefcase,
Right.
or whatever it is, right? And if you misplace it or you forget it somewhere, you get, a notification on your phone, or on your iPad or on your other iDevices that you left it behind,
Or
and then
or
it
if it goes
allows you
away
to
from
go
you,
and locate where it's at.
or if it goes away from you in any
Right.
for any reason, if it gets
Right.
away from your phone, it says, "Hey, I can't see this anymore. What
Right.
happened?"
Right.
Or it moved away.
There are two other major functions of Find My. One is, Find My.
Well, so now we're talking about Find My. That's the other technology.
Well,
You're
no, no, no,
jumping
no, 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 no,
technologies
no,
on me
no,
a
no,
little
no,
bit.
no. The Epic
No, Find My uses.
Hang on. The Epic
Yes.
CEO is saying specifically that the
I understand
Find
that,
My
but what I was
technology,
trying to do is itemize the technologies that we're talking
and
about
that
first.
we're on the same
The
page.
AirTags
It's
was
also
one.
what I'm trying to do.
This is a different component of that whole set of system. So the first kind was that actual physical tags that you put on things. Then there's
Mhm.
Find My, which has got two things. It does one function is to babysit those tags, but it also babysits other devices that you have, or even people if you choose to and they choose to share. That lets you keep track of those locations as well, using basically the same kind of technology but built into the device. So, and that's the focus of what the Epic CEO has a problem with.
Right.
When you get
Right.
down
So
to it.
so it's more right. So you've got the Apple tags, you've got the Find My device, and then you've got Find My friends, right? And those are really the three basic things that Find My does, right? Find my stuff wherever it is, all right? Um find my so find my tags of wherever I put the trackers on, find my devices, right? And like I said, find my friends. Those folks that have opened up their location to other people so that they can see where they are, so that you can all find each other and congregate together. Is, I guess, the all right. So
Yep.
but according to um Mac rumors, um Tim Sweeney is saying that, quote, this is what he had said on X. This feature is super creepy surveillance tech and shouldn't exist. Years ago, a kid stole a Mac laptop out of my car. Years later, I was checking out Find My, and it showed a map of the house where the kid who stole my Mac lived. WTF, Apple, how is that okay? Well, it's okay because your lost property is sitting in that house. Go retrieve it, or call the police to go retrieve it. That's not creepy. That's getting your
There's
stuff
no difference
back.
between that and having a low jack on your car.
Right. There's no
knowing
difference.
where your car was.
Right.
But the other thing of this too is if you really didn't care for this and care for the technology,
You don't have to use it. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Why did you have it on?
Thank you. If you don't,
Or if it was stolen and you already got, like say you had it insured, you already got a replacement. Why didn't you delete the old one? I mean,
delete the old one from your account. Absolutely. All right. But there's absolutely nothing wrong. That's not creepy. What he's talking about here in this particular tweet is not creepy. This is exactly what the functionality is for. Find your stolen stuff. Find your misplaced stuff. All right. It's not showing you the house where the kid lives because you don't know if it was that kid or not.
Well, you don't even know if it's a house. You don't know what it is at first.
Right.
All you know is that your stuff
you don't
is
know
at
if it's
this
a
location.
domicile or a coffee shop or whatever it is until you sort of,
all you know is that your stuff is at this
pinch
place.
down to it. But all you know is that's where your activation locked device is currently at. So go and find it. It's not like I can go and say, oh, I know that Joel has this Apple device and I want it. I'm going to steal it from him because I'm going to go and I'm going to attach my account to his device. No, you have to have the device and the serial number and be able to set it all up. All right. And then if it's already registered to a specific account, you can't unregister it and register it to yours. It's locked. So I want to go ahead and move us to our mobile Linux segment. And this next story really it's disappointing, but we saw this one coming from, 10 miles away, literally. I mean, you knew this was going to happen, right? Intel has cut 15,000 jobs. So, Chris, what's going on and why is this happening? And could this could this have been avoided or what?
I don't know. So the story we're quoting basically lets us know that they basically didn't meet the revenues that they wanted to have met. That's Intel's claim. There's also secondary claims. That we always hear the secondary claims it's because of AI, but the reality,
it's not because of AI.
No, it's not because of AI. Not directly, but I will say, I suspect a lot of this is having to do with the fact that, again, Intel has kind of failed to follow on the ARM bandwagon. They may be getting there eventually, but they're way behind the curve, and there's no excitement. People are not thrilled with Intel chips right now. It's not that nobody's buying them or anything like that, but I just don't think they're going the way they expected to go right now. They're kind of lost at sea a little bit, and I think that's causing them to. I think they were already seeing a bit of a decline because we were seeing a decline in the PC market as well a little bit. And I think all of those things have conspired to just not make Intel as.
Weren't they having trouble getting? Was it to 3 nanometers or 2?
They were, and
or 5?
Again, that's another factor in this. They were having trouble getting down to the lower tiers here. They haven't been able to get onto lower nanometer kind of processes the way that their competitors have. So they're not, and there's a lot of stories now about how they're just not very power efficient, energy efficient, anything else. And you can only add so often and so long before these things become too hot, or the fans are running all the time, or something. And I got to have water cooled machines, whatever it is. There's a cap here right now, and they're hitting it, I think, or getting close to it. And it's just challenges. It's just challenges. They've got to figure out where they want to go next and how they want to get there next. And they're not quite ready with where they need to be yet. And I think that's showing. I think that's showing in their current numbers. I think that's so. Here they are, blaming the AI focused ARM processors, where really ARM has nothing to do with AI. It happens to be just they've chosen to bundle these things together. But
So to get down to the details,
they
have to. Intel is saying that they have to implement a $10 billion cost reduction in order to resolve its financial difficulties. So this, along with expenses, along with 15,000 jobs, and more than likely other kinds of cuts, are going to have to really get into into some serious negotiating and haggling. According to their CEO, we plan to deliver $10 billion in cost savings in 2025, and this includes reducing our headcount by roughly 15,000 roles, or 15% of our workforce. The majority of these actions will be completed by the end of this year. So Merry Christmas, kids.
And the thing is, we actually read some of the comments to this particular story, the way they were posting, they're pretty much exactly kind of the things that we're saying ourselves here. Is that, look, I think Intel's biggest challenge is that they kind of ignored ARM coming up and assumed that people would just go forward with the same old.
Right, they did.
And the example was given by one of the commenters here, is that this is exactly what Xerox did with Park. They ignored that the Park things that were going on, and hence things like the Macintosh were born, because Xerox didn't give a crap about that until it was too late.
Too late, right?
And so I think that's a similar kind of thing.
Is this the beginning of the end of
I don't
Intel?
Know. I don't know.
Well, these are some rhetorical questions, right?
Absolutely true.
That based on what you're talking about, maybe some other kinds of things that have happened in the past. These are rhetorical questions that some folks may be asking. The biggest of which probably might be, is this the beginning of the end for Intel? And I don't know, as you were going to say. So
Yeah, and I think they're, hopefully they can kind of right the ship. They're a big player. They're still a big player. They're not going away tomorrow. But
right,
they've got to get them. Big ships take a long time to turn.
they do.
You got to get this thing going in the right direction, and I don't think they were going in the right direction.
Oh, I don't even think they were close, to tell you the truth.
So, that if they can get it, aimed a little better, they need to start thinking more about efficiency and stop ignoring it and things like that.
Well, I think what they
especially
need. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, especially now when we're starting to see numbers about how much power it takes just for AI learning and all these other
Right.
things. They're just hugely not
Right.
green in any way, shape, or
Right.
form.
No.
And that's fine as far as it goes. But the thing is, Intel isn't helping that model. It isn't helping that They need to have things that they're thinking about what the larger, again, future is for these things.
Right.
And efficiency is a big part of all this going forward.
So two of the biggest problems that they have right now are and this first one's been going on longer than the second. They've been having a very, very difficult time getting down to a smaller engineering process, going from 5 nanometers to 3 nanometers to 2 and whatever else. So they've had that engineering problem is a nut that they have up to this point, I think, still failed to crack. I don't think
their competitors have.
Right,
so.
But their competitors have, but they haven't been able to do it. At least not with any level of consistency that would allow for the top processors that they've engineered and they've designed, right? Number one. Number two, I believe that they completely ignored the ARM party, if you will. All right. And with Apple and now Microsoft sort of jumping on that bandwagon and really heading down in that direction more and more. Well, Apple's 100% in, but Microsoft now, I think, doing more and more with ARM, and I would think less and less. They've got a problem.
And let's not forget to add into that, even ignoring the ARM aspect of it, AMD with its similar processors has done a better job in many cases than Intel has in recent times. And AMD is also kind of looking down that ARM channel and deciding what to do with themselves. But I think it sounds like, at least on the surface, that AMD may be a little bit ahead of that game than Intel is as well. So everybody's eating a little piece of Intel's lunch right now, and that's can't help.
Right.
Can't be helping them. So I think they're going to have to figure out what, again, how do they want to spin this? But they need to get on a different direction than they're on right now, because the direction they're on right now is going to be a dead end.
Exactly. And here's the concern that I have. I don't know that they can or they will. I don't know if they're, I don't know. I think that their current management is stubborn. I don't know that it's entrenched, but I know that I know that they're very stubborn, and that they're not moving as quickly as I think they needed to move over the past, say, 5 years. So, but again,
but it takes, like I said, it takes a lot to move this ship. This is a big ship.
Oh yeah. So, large companies like this don't move quickly at all.
So we'll see where they go.
And they never will. But anyway, and speaking of AI, Joel, you had thrown a very interesting YouTube video at us this week that kind of sorts or tries to go through everything that's wrong with AI. And I would say from a I don't know if I want to say millennial perspective or a Gen Z perspective, but this influencer is definitely a little bit younger, and some of her points of view and perspectives are interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of them are dead on and share some of the things that I see personally, and I have previously wrote about a little bit on the site. But the thing here is like some of the things she mentioned is AI being used to train AI, which is true.
Right.
That they're doing that, and there other things too, like for example, AI sucking up work from creators. That's also happening. So I
Right.
mean,
She spent a lot of the
and
video on that.
Oh,
well,
Well,
she's a
yeah, because
creator, so it's
she
fair,
doesn't want her
Absolutely.
content
right?
used
Absolutely.
inappropriately or without her permission. So I can totally understand that.
Yep. Yep.
But it isn't everything about AI. It is some
No.
key points, though.
There are some certain things that she does hit on that I think
When she
are
It's
near
it's
to
Well,
yeah,
she
I
also
would say
mentioned the one thing you mentioned too, just in the last one about AI, saying AI is bad for the environment, and that's true.
yeah,
The cloud AI stuff is
it
using a
is.
ton of power.
It is. Yeah, she makes a
In
lot.
of what value though is the power? Is the AI good enough to be worth that power expenditure? And I don't think it is in a lot of cases.
right.
So
I mean, what is it going to do? How's it going to do it? What
right.
value will it provide to the everyday person?
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Very early in the current round of AI,
it's
and
not
this
even.
just
It's not again. It's not even
right.
artificial intelligence. It's
Not really.
not
No.
when it can talk back to me and have a very fluid conversation and interpret the tones of my voice with what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Then it can, if it can show creativity on its own, all right, without having to on its own, without having to have any input from me or any other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
then then I'll say yes. It's just, what the hell have we done and why have we done it? um
Yep. She
Skynet,
also
here we come.
right, but she also mentioned Copilot and Recall, which Recall has been, for lack of better words, recalled.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
but it is
she
a
brought up
very
really interesting points, and that
Mhm.
wasn't just an IT perspective. I mean, a lot of IT folks said this is not a good idea with regards to Recall, but Recall itself isn't necessarily an AI based technology.
Well,
No, yeah, she was conflating Copilot and Recall a little bit,
Right.
but that was fine. I mean,
right,
the
but
Yeah.
point was still there underneath it
that's
all.
creepy,
But
though. That's creepy. I mean, if you really
oh, it
want to get
is.
down to brass tacks, it's not
Right. It
FineLight
is.
that's creepy. It's that Windows recall stuff that was
But
creepy.
that was
That
that
Yep.
was
as Joel just said, that wasn't that. It's not really an AI feature
no, it's
exactly.
not.
No.
So
And by the
again,
way, this creator is Gabby Bell, who she's very like we said, she's very much younger than all of us here, and probably even younger than our children. But
Probably, probably.
but
To be very honest,
she's
probably.
yeah. I mean, but she's got actually I like a lot of her content. And see this, she has 1 million subscribers, and this video that we've watched that we're talking about here has over 600,000
Views.
views.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's a you know questioning the good of it, and I also do that too, like, because I'm thinking here is, okay, there's a lot of things that we know, and we will go to experts for, like, for example, the doctor. We'll go to the doctor because of the training that person's had,
Right.
and because of his brain and his knowledge. Okay, what
I know
if
where
we
you're going, and I
replaced him
can't
with an
wait to hear it.
AI? Yeah, what if we replace that with an AI, and we're, instead of going to the doctor, we talk to an AI, and the AI screws up? And the
Well,
AI is incapable of knowing that. The AI can only, especially large language model AIs, which is primarily what we're dealing with here. Uh, they can't tell you what it doesn't know. So
It
if its
can't tell
data
you what
is
it
out
doesn't
of
know, and it
date,
doesn't have the life experience that older
right?
individuals, hello, iTechGear
Yes.
Weekly, all right,
Mm-hmm.
that older individuals will have. All right.
But
They don't have
but
the
to be
experience
fair,
or the
to
understanding
be
of and
fair,
the ability to interpret all of those things. Go ahead.
to be fair, people don't always get it right either. So you got to be we got to be
Very
careful when we
true.
say that.
Very true.
People make
Correct.
mistakes too. So,
That's
uh,
absolutely right.
but
I give her a
I,
lot of
I
credit though.
I do. She did a lot of research. It was clear she did a lot of research. I think she wanders a little bit in her
Yes.
explanation, but guys, sit through it. The details are there. There's some useful stuff in there. It is a little,
It's a good video. It
but
really,
It
really
is.
is.
well, give her a few years, let her get older like us, and she'll be well seasoned. But
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, so she's going to give iJustine a run for her money. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Now the other thing that I want to go ahead and speak to before we go ahead and head for the break, the Galaxy you know, I like these sites. Okay, I like these sites, but this one in particular just absolutely just makes my skin and my wallet crawl. All right.
yeah,
The,
yeah.
the Jerry Rig Everything went ahead and took apart
As he
a
does.
as he does a Galaxy Fold 6. I mean, took a completely new, brand new, right out of the box because he pulled it out, unsealed it, pulled it out, and went to go ahead and and did a review on the whole thing and did a yeah, it made me cry. It made me. But
Well,
what's
it
going
should
on with this,
make you
Joel?
cry. So, basically, the video, he actually does teardowns of almost every device there is,
Mm-hmm.
including the Galaxy Fold 6,
Mm-hmm.
iPhones, everything. Okay.
Right. Right.
The one thing that happened here, now, granted, I don't think you should bring uh I think the title's a little clickbaity, because
Maybe.
he's doing something that probably would cause this to happen. When he tore the screen off in front, it did catch on fire a little bit, probably because he,
A little bit.
A little bit.
yeah, because he cut something you probably shouldn't have. But that's kind of when he'll get to a certain point after he does the basics that anybody would look at, like
Right.
you know putting dirt, what happens when dirt gets is
Well, yeah,
dust and
and
stuff is
he's
closed in the
sitting
screen
there
and
at the
stuff
very,
like
very
that.
beginning of the thing,
Right.
pulling some dirt and dust into the
Hmm.
frame, so that you can see
Yeah.
that he's going to go ahead and smish it and sprinkle it and whatever else.
Right.
But
But so yeah, and personally, I think some people like I know Chris, it just makes you cringe when
oh
you see
God, it
that
makes
being
me
done to
cringe.
these devices, but I think it plays an important role here in that how much can they take, and as the years go on, they're taking more and more, and was certainly the case with the Galaxy Fold 6.
Right.
So I think that's the important part here, and the things that we seem to forget here. Now, granted, is anybody gonna do what he did in a video to their phone? I would certainly
Not on
hope not.
purpose. Not on
Right.
purpose, I don't think.
But and some of the lesser things, would that you know give anybody more confidence in their device? And I think it could. It just depends on what you're talking about. But
Sure.
but say what you will. He is a unique individual. He does a lot of other good videos too. Like one of my favorite ones. He's building a bunker in his backyard, which
Yeah.
is a really interesting video in and of itself. And he has a wife who is basically permanently disabled. She's in a wheelchair all the time, and he started a company to help make wheelchairs for
Mm-hmm.
people like her, to give them mobility back. So but he does this. This is just part of the many things he does on his
Mm-hmm.
channel, and he does that with these phones, and he has other projects too. So
Right.
if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, I'd highly recommend it. So
Yeah, but it is very depressing to see him take a X-Acto knife or a razor blade and scratch the living crap out of
Well,
all four sides of this
I
thing. And
I do, but I do. It's to Joel's point. I do agree. There's a value to be served here. I just wish he wasn't so clickbaity about the whole thing.
yeah,
yeah, he's
So
very clickbaity. But
unfortunately, that I don't appreciate that kind of approach to it. But
well, and
and sometimes that's
unfortunately
what you do to get
though,
people's attention. That's what gets people's
well, and
attention. Like this.
a lot of that's because of how the algorithm's designed.
right.
So
True. And he just
I
works it. I get it. I mean, I
yep.
get why he does it, but I just wish I would rather a more neutral approach to it. But that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
A little more methodical, a little more neutral,
Sure.
a little less dramatic.
But I mean, oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, it just absolutely just it kills me.
It
And
kills you.
it does. It absolutely kills me. And you know what? I'll get over it right after this brief message. 100 episodes. The iTechGear Weekly has more than 100 episodes. We've been doing this, oh my goodness, for almost 4 years. And to be very honest, the iTechGear Weekly needs your help. We need your subscriptions. We need your donations. Anything at any time would be very much appreciated. We need your help. I will tell you that I am about $3,000 a year in on site maintenance as well as show maintenance. And while we're not really going to stop, we really do need your help. Any kind of donation that you can go ahead and provide to us, either through a Patreon subscription or directly to the site via my personal PayPal, Chris at iTechGear.org, would be greatly appreciated. You can subscribe to a monthly newsletter for just a small amount every month at www.patreon.com/iTechGear. If you do that, you get a summary of all of the shows. You get a summary of all of the articles that we post with direct links to everything that happens on the site. Boy, we've had a great time over the last 3 years and change, providing everyone with the steps and procedures needed to make technology all that much easier to understand and use. Boy, again, we could use your help in making it easier to provide those wonderful things that we do, that voodoo that we do so well, to you on a daily and weekly basis. So please, if you have the time, smash that subscribe button on the podcast. If you have the time and you have the inkling, go to our Patreon site, www.patreon.com/iTechGear. Subscribe to our newsletter. Provide us with a small donation. One time, monthly, doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and continue to provide you with that knowledge and insight that all four of us have every week. I want to say thank you to you, even if you don't donate, even if you don't subscribe. I still want to thank you for the opportunity to come to you every week, because we sure do have a great time doing the show. So from all of us here at the iTechGear Weekly and from iTechGear.org, we thank you. We love you, and we'll see you soon. And welcome back to the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 101, Creepy Epic Failures. I think an epic failure for me was, I got to turn the doggone video off. I can't let it play while we're done. Yeah, I just got to stop. Anyway, so welcome back to the iTechGear Weekly. I want to start us into our Windows segment now. And this was, this next story at least is CrowdStrike related, based on all of the things that have happened over or during and since the CrowdStrike outage. There's been a lot of company management, senior leadership commenting on what has happened. We are still experiencing some fallout from all of that over at our company. I know there's at least one organization that is still trying to deal with all of that. And the Delta's CEO specifically called the Windows platform fragile. And I thought that was an interesting way to think about that. I mean, from basically, so Delta employs CrowdStrike in their Windows environment, their enterprise Windows environment. And according to Ed Barston, who I believe is the CEO
Bastian,
over at Bastian. I'm sorry, Ed Bastian. He's the CEO over at Delta. They lost, in the period of 5 days, they lost $500 million due to this. So $100 million a day in terms of losses.
7,000 people canceled their flights.
Yeah.
Yep.
Outright canceled.
Yeah. How many again?
7,000.
7,000.
Canceled their flights outright.
Yeah. So this particular situation or incident forced him to rethink the airline's partnership with Microsoft and CrowdStrike while touting Apple's apparent immunity to repeated outages. They are seeking damages amounting to $500 million from Microsoft and CrowdStrike. However, CrowdStrike has only offered free IT consultation advice, while the latter, I'm sorry, Microsoft offered free consultation advice, while the latter touted $10 Uber Eats gift cards for those that were affected. So, so if you were hungry while you were sitting in the airport waiting for a flight,
somehow I think that's not going to quite make up the difference to Delta.
Not even close. You know,
I have to say, I was traveling on CrowdStrike Day, and I had a little trouble checking out of my hotel, and it was related.
Yeah,
and I found it. I didn't even know anything was going on at that point because it was early. It was still pretty early in the morning.
Right.
But it's fascinating. You know, we talk about Delta because Delta's been the most vocal and certainly has a big thing, but there are so many people still dealing, as you just said, you're still dealing with it at your company.
Still dealing with a couple
what are those costs? You know, those people have to work on this and have to deal with this. What do those costs look like, and how many lawsuits is this going to wind up in? And it's not going to, like you just pointed out with the story, it's not just CrowdStrike. Yes, CrowdStrike created the problem, but Microsoft built the infrastructure that allowed this kind of problem to happen.
CrowdStrike to create and to engineer their product in such a way that this particular problem was created and caused. So yes, I think they are both culpable.
So here you go. And so I think this is just the beginning of a long stream of litigation probably coming out of this thing. You know, as people get their stuff together, set their acts together, I think you're going to see a lot of this.
Right. You know, I said this before, I'm going to say it again. I don't know. I don't understand how Microsoft is. Microsoft got, I mean, for crying out loud, how many times did we hit an activation lock? You upgrade, all you did as a consumer was you upgraded your processor, your RAM, or your hard drive, and it threw the activation lock, and you had to call Microsoft on the phone and say, hey, I just upgraded my RAM and my hard drive, and now Windows is telling me that it won't activate or that it's deactivated because. All right.
Or you botched your BitLocker, so you can't unencrypt your disk, or
Right.
and you and I have talked about this over the years, that we really don't care for the memory model or the driver model that Microsoft has chosen, because there are these flaws and weaknesses in those hooks and the way those hooks work.
My point was,
here you go.
Why in the world are you giving me grief as a consumer because I upgraded the RAM and or my hard drive in my machine? All right, making me jump through hoops to reactivate Windows. All right, number one. Number two, what in the world? How in the world is that CrowdStrike product still a because they're modifying the Windows kernel? How is that still a genuine version of Windows? How?
Well, I agree, and what's interesting about all this though is, people who had older versions of Windows didn't run into this because they're not running that kernel version and whatnot. So companies like Southwest Airlines stayed up even though they're running really old Windows versions.
Yeah, like Windows 3.11 is what I heard.
It's only sites that are on newer stuff, current stuff, that had the problem, and the current stuff's supposed to be better. So now Microsoft is going to supposedly change the models of a lot of this stuff to make it more like what Apple does. I can't imagine them getting that right. I'm sorry, guys. I just don't see Microsoft quite getting that whole change right. But even if they did, that's a huge architectural change. It's going to impact a lot of other things. That's going to trigger negative things as well as positive things for folks. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure. They've got bigger fish to fry here. They need to think about some other things that they do very poorly. And it just seems like they're dropping a lot of balls lately. So when you see that, Delta CEO saying Microsoft OS seems fragile, I don't know if fragile is the word I would have used necessarily, but I certainly think it has a cobbled together feel sometimes, and that certainly leads to challenges.
I think that there are some very seriously screwed up engineering decisions that
I would agree,
that were made not only in the driver model, like we've talked about, not only in the
in the
UI,
memory model,
as we have said for years and years and years.
Yeah.
All right.
Inconsistencies, all these other things, they all lead to these kinds of problems.
Right. But more so, I don't understand how and why you can push you can go ahead and screw up an activation model because I upgraded some user-based components. All right. When it's understandable that a user may actually go and try to upgrade their RAM or their hard drive or whatever. All right. And yet you're allowing a engineering partner or some other kind of Microsoft partner to modify the kernel, and you're still considering that to be a genuine version of Windows when you're busy screaming at me over the upgraded hard drive and the upgraded RAM is not. You're calling my version there that's still on my mirrored hard drive not a genuine version of Windows. You're questioning me, yet you're allowing an engineering partner to completely modify the kernel. What the hell?
They're not the first ones I've seen use, I'm going to call it, hardware components to try to key that to a license, to key that to an activation code, to key that to whatever. I can give you a couple.
They don't do that anymore. Now it's tied to your Microsoft account, which they force you to go ahead and create when you actually install Windows now. But
I can talk about vendors that used to tie their activation codes to a MAC address. Well, what happened when we started to virtualize everything and use things like VMware? Guess what?
Or when you had to go and get a different, or you added a different networking card to your machine.
Absolutely true. So none of those models have worked flawlessly. So I don't like those models, but what I have a problem with is the kind of what you're implying here is that it's not that you did one or the other. It's that you do both and they're inconsistent with each other, and they are. It's like you can do it this way, but you can't do it that way.
It's reasonable to expect me to do one, the other.
Why is it
or
okay
both
for
at
you
the
but not
same
the other?
time.
Well, why is it
Right.
okay for you but not them, or them and not you? I don't. That
And the
doesn't make any
kernel
sense.
modification is a much more serious. Seriouser? That's that
Seriouser?
much gooder
Yeah.
English again. Thank you. All right.
Oh my
It's a
goodness.
much more serious modification. All right. And you're still saying it's okay for that engineer, that Microsoft partner, quote
Company.
unquote, to do that. You'd
modify the
scream at
kernel.
me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You would. There's no way if I were to do that on my own, I'd never get that
Absolutely
license
true.
back. That license would be gone. So
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But again, this gets back to what you and I have said about Microsoft in its history of Windows
right.
is not and has not been consistent about anything. And the inconsistencies in the user interface, the inconsistencies in these kinds of policies, these lead to problems. And we see these problems coming out, more
Right.
and more.
Right. And here's yet another one. This one wasn't necessarily CrowdStrike related, but Microsoft 365 went down again last week.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a distributed denial of service attack, or DDoS attack, that brought down Microsoft Office services, which includes Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneDrive, the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, Intune, Entra, Power Platform, Power BI. Even though at this point, SharePoint Online and OneDrive for Business, Microsoft Teams, and Exchange Online appeared to be unaffected. So everything else, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, OneDrive, Intune, Entra, Power Platform, and Power BI, all that took a,
and all that speaks
crap to
to what I've indicated as a fear of the race to put it all in the cloud. This is the kind of thing that I worry we're going to see more and more. We're going to see more and more of these issues.
Right.
Again, they're not going away.
That it created engineering challenges and support challenges, and it opened up attack vectors that didn't necessarily exist before, because of course all the software was installed on your hard drive, right? Or on your local SSD or whatever it was.
You might be able to block me from getting to the internet with a DDoS attack, but you couldn't really stop me from running Word in the old days.
No,
I could still run Word and still attach my local files and do what I had to do.
Absolutely, you could, right? Now apparently all on Tuesday that everything was back up and running normally by 3:43 p.m. Eastern time. But you've lost the entire day at that point.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. So anyway.
Yeah, that's not good. So Tuesday was not a good day for Microsoft either then.
No, it wasn't. And the fact that they've had so many of these hit so close together really is starting to make a lot of folks look at alternatives, whether it's Mac or whether it's Joel's favorite. What is it, Joel?
Linux.
There you go. It's becoming, more and more people are starting to look at that. And some of those Linux alternatives, those desktops, are really very nice. And to be very, very honest with, there's a lot of software out there for both Mac and for Linux that is either a genuine Microsoft product, like Microsoft Office for Mac, or Open Office, or some other Office compatible suite for Linux that can do the job and can do the job pretty well. So there's alternatives. They're out there. And now
there's more
they're
every
looking
day.
at them. They're looking at
There's
them.
more every day too.
Yep. So I don't.
Yeah.
Microsoft needs to get its shit together. They really do. Pardon me for being so blunt, but they really need to get it together, because if they don't, they're going to really, I think, end up screwing
Well,
themselves out of
here's
business.
and
So
here's the thing. There's and Microsoft still depends very, very, very heavily on the business market. You
right.
cannot hose
Mhm.
the business user without
No.
repercussions. And Microsoft has been losing kind of wind in the consumer space for a while now.
Right.
It's slow. Again, the degradation of it is slow, but it's been happening. Apple's been getting a bigger share. Linux has been getting a bigger share,
Mm-hmm.
and people are walking away from the OS. But that also means they're walking away from other Microsoft services and apps. Is part of this thing, and so it's one thing to lose that in the consumer space, but when they start losing it in the business space,
Mm-hmm.
they really better start waking up because that's their
Mhm.
bread and butter. It really,
Wow.
really is. And
Yeah.
and people go from there. People go from there to, okay, I really like my Microsoft Office suite. I'm happy with Microsoft, so I'm going to go buy some space on an Azure server somewhere.
Right.
Well, guess what? That dependence. If you can't depend on them for one, why would you think you could depend on them for the other? So people are going to be very concerned, and business IT leaders are going to be very concerned. You hear again, and we saw it in the last story with Delta talking. So we see
Right.
the same thing here. When you start getting CEOs of big companies start to say, "I question what you're
Right.
doing,"
Right.
that's a problem in the business world because again, that's their
Oh, it's
bread and
huge.
butter. That's their
That's
dependency.
huge. That's huge.
They need to think about
The
that.
enterprise market is really what is making the money for them.
Well, and kind of
Mhm.
like we said, we said earlier with Intel, again, this is a big freaking ship. I'm not sure they're moving in the right direction here. I have some concerns about where they're going, and it makes people.
Mm-hmm.
So business leaders are asking questions. People like you and I ask
Right.
questions. I'm debating whether I want any more Windows machines in my environment. I have a mixed environment these days. I have lots of different types of machines on different platforms. I don't know if I want my next machine to be a Windows machine anymore. I don't know if I
Right.
want to replace my current Windows machines with newer ones. I'm not sure I want to do that. And if I'm questioning that, what's everybody else doing?
Right.
So
Mhm.
that's what they've got to worry about. This leads to momentum. This leads to things. So
Mm-hmm.
guys, please think about what you're doing.
Please.
Folks in
Mhm.
Redmond, please listen. Please pay attention to what you're doing a little bit.
Right.
I don't think you're talking to each other very well, and
No, no, and
I don't
that's
think you're
part of the
moving in the right
culture over
way.
at Microsoft. A lot of departments are at war with each other, and they tend to not talk.
And it
Yep.
shows, and it's showing.
Yeah, exactly.
So there you
So,
go.
yeah. Based on all of that wonderful stuff, I want to go ahead and I want to move us to our tip of the week segment. And
Oh,
while
good.
we've been busy beating, Microsoft up, um, I found some really interesting word tips. But before I get to the actual bread and butter here, I want to remind everybody that, hey, iTechGear is all about bringing technology down out of the cloud and bringing it down to earth, and making it easy for everybody to understand. And this team specifically has dedicated their careers, their writing careers, to this specific purpose. So each week, the iTechGear Weekly is going to feature a new computing tip authored by one of our experienced editors, and questions, requests, suggestions can be sent to tips@itechgear.org. And this week, I want to speak to specifically because even though it went down all day Tuesday, Microsoft Word is something that nearly everybody in business uses, and nearly everybody in school uses, though in many cases that may be Google Docs. Um, this, however, is something that everybody should learn
Mm.
to do, creating a Word 365 template. All right. And all you have to do to create a new Word uh, template is to set up the basics of your document in Word. Make sure your headers are the way that you want them. Make sure your footers are the way that you want them. Make sure that you've got maybe a table of contents the way that you want, or however you want to set up your document. All right. And then when you get ready to save it, you click on Save As, and then when you get to the Save As dialog box, um, go ahead and underneath the name of the document, It'll show you, where you want to save it. It'll have a preliminary title in there for you. And then underneath that, it's going to have a document type drop down. So click that drop down and select Word template or star.dotx. All right. And then click the save. Name your document, whatever you want to go ahead and name it in the resulting dialog box that shows up, and then click the save button. After that, you can go ahead and just double click on that particular file that you've created. And it will create bring up a blank document with the correct headers and footers and other content, pre-entered content that you have in there that you want to use to create a document, and then allow you and have it be as a blank document, or as an unnamed document, and you can give it your own name. But it's really that simple. Just save your document with a .dotx extension, and you're good to go.
And it can save you quite a bit of time.
It can, especially if you
It
have to
really
create
can.
similar documents on a regular basis. A daily report, a weekly report, a monthly report, or any kind of paper for a specific class that you're taking.
I have a good friend who has to write customer letters
There
over
you
and
go.
over and over. Uses some headers, and away she goes. That makes her world a lot easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely the case.
Yep. And it's a
Good
huge,
tips.
huge time saver. So, and I want to go ahead now and move it to our pick of the week segment. But again, before we get there, I just want to take a moment and and remind everybody that our show picks are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we have individually purchased and actually used. And we like them enough that we want to recommend them to you, our growing listener base. These aren't paid advertisements or any items that we have any affiliated marketing relationship with. If they were, the editorial policy over at iTechGear.org indicates specifically that we have to let you guys know that up front. These are just things that we sincerely believe in, and we bring to you at the end of each show. Why?
Because we
Because
like
they
you.
There you go. And this week I've got the pick, and over the last few years I have and my monitor count has grown because I'm working on multiple things at once, and I've got programs that I want to keep up on a monitor and don't want to have to minimize, so I'll move them to one monitor or another and let them stay there. I have been looking for docking stations that have more than two monitor ports and more than just a handful or a few USB-C ports and other USB ports. And I found this docking station a few years ago, and it's actually a pretty good docking station. This is a universal USB-C docking station with a 150-watt power supply that will work especially with your M series MacBooks. It will work with your newer Windows machines as well. It's got some really interesting features. It's got dual and triple 4K display support, 5K display port support, Thunderbolt 3 and 4, Gen 2 10 gigabits per second USB-A, USB-C. It's got two audio ports and an 18-watt power display out port, PD out port. So you can push up to 3 external displays with this particular thing, and it's really kind of cool. And it's only $149.98 right now on Amazon as of this recording. So for that, it's not bad. 16 different ports, including a micro SD card slot, an SD card slot, USB A and USB-C PD outs, 3.5-inch audio port, a USB-A 3.2 port, a USB-C 3.2 port, as well as let's see, so a couple of USB-A ports, a gigabit Ethernet port, and then again the three different 2 HDMI and one display port on the back of this thing, and it's really not bad.
Let me correct you just a little bit.
Thank
It's
you,
104. It's 149 if you're a Prime member, and there's some other conditions to that price. Without anything like that, it's 249.
Well,
at its basis. So I just want to point out, because some people may not see that and wonder why. But if you're a Prime member, and a lot of us Amazon folks are, right? So you should see the better pricing.
Right. But at $100 off, if you are, it's not too bad.
It's not too bad. Absolutely
not too bad, and it's a 2-day shipping if you have Prime. So at least to my location. So, but that's it. This has been the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 101, Creepy Epic Failures. Recorded live Sunday, August 4th, 2024, live from iTechGear Central for our ailing doctor, Mr. Larry McJunkin, Mr. Chris Gavula, and brother Joe McLaughlin. I want to say, hey, we'll see you next time.
Get better, Larry.